Good day. Welcome to G More Life. Today I'm working on this Land Pride RTR2072 reverse 6-foot tiller. And I will be replacing the lower bearing on this tiller. And it's been a few years since I messed with this, so not all sure what all exactly wrong with it. We may find some other things wrong with it. But our main goal is to replace that lower bearing. And as you can see here, I'm having a little trouble with this adjusting nut. And it's probably not the safest way to do this, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do. Just going to finish loosening up this chain adjustment by hand so the cover will come off a little bit easier. Now I'm going to loosen up the lower drain plug. I don't expect anything to come out. The lube that we use for this thing is so thick that it doesn't run at all hardly, so it'll probably just stay put. Now I'm just taking an impact and a wrench to remove the nuts and the bolts that go away through this cover. There's at least a dozen of these. I can't remember exactly how many there are. I decide now that it'll be easier to get to the other ones if I lift this thing up with my tractor and get it up higher so I can not have to crawl around the ground. Now that we're up underneath here and a little bit easier to get to, we can remove the rest of these nuts and bolts. All right, that's all I can do under here. I think I'll lower it down and see if we can get the rest of it. All right, and here comes the cover off. As I drop my gasket. All right, I'm just taking some brake cleaner to this chain and these gears to see what all I need to actually do here, so I can see if there's any other damage besides the bearings. All right, time to take an impact to it. And what just fell out was parts of the bearing. So it definitely needed replaced. And that's my lovely wife going to feed the Mustang. These are the bearings out of the lower bearing here. All right, here's a little bit closer view of the bearing here. As you can see, it's kind of fell apart. Oh, now we got a little bit different angle here. This is so I can get under here, and I'm going to start taking the bolts out for the whole tiller section here. Because I won't be able to get that bearing off with this still on here. All right, I've already broke these nuts loose here. What I'm doing, I'm going to have to take the whole assembly, the blades and the shaft, remove it so I can get this bearing out of here because I don't have room for it to come out with everything still attached. Be very careful with these blades. They can be very sharp and turn on you and cut you. Ask me how I know. Just look at my right arm. Now I'm going to have to do it to this side and the other side, and then I'm going to have to drop it out. That's where it gets kind of dangerous. I'm going to lower this whole unit down here in a little bit and put it basically on the ground so it doesn't fall out on me. And I'm going to later get the wife's help to put it back in. All right, here I am doing the same thing on the other end. Obviously, what you got to do one side, you got to do the other so you can get it all out of here. All right, here it is. I got it closer to the ground. Be very careful as you take this thing apart. As you take off those last bolts, that shaft can turn on you. Those blades come around and cut your arm or cut off a finger or anything. So proceed at your own risk. It is fairly dangerous, and it can be heavy. So and just like that, it can drop on you. And that's why I just give you a warning. Be careful. All right, just removing the bolts from the bearing now. I'd already removed the nuts on the back side. All right, I got the new bearing, and I've already put some of this gear oil gasket maker. This way it's impervious to any kind of grease or oil. Your regular RTV won't hold up to grease and oils like this stuff will. All right, now I'm going to put some of this gasket material around the head of these bolts because they're located inside of the pan area with all the grease oil, so I don't want it seeping through. And now I'm going to place the nuts on these bolts. All right, putting the shaft spindle back in. I've got Donna on the tractor right now, and I'm giving her directions, and she's lowering the tiller down so I can put the bolts back in. All right, we got enough nuts and bolts in it. Now I'm going to tighten the rest of them down, and we'll have this part of the install complete. Alrighty, now time to put the chain and the gears back on. Pretty simple. I'm just now pulling on the chain tensioner there just to kind of show you what it looks like when it's got the tensioner against it. So now I just need to put the nut back on. And what I'm showing you now is the old locking nut versus the new locking nut on the left. You can see how the locking material is squished out and kind of melted. I guess it got pretty hot whenever the bearing wore out on this piece of equipment. Time for the impact again. I'll tighten this nut up. All right, I've got the gasket laying on the cover, and I'm placing the bolts up through the gasket. The gasket will hold them in place to help line up the cover as I put it back on the tiller. All right, after getting all the bolts back in the cover here, I'm going to see if I can set it on here just right. All right, I'm just pushing the bolts through the holes after everything's lined up here, and I'll be putting the nuts on. All right, time to tighten up the nuts and bolts. All right, snugging down the chain adjustment. I'm going to go until it's really snug, and I'm going to back it off like a quarter turn. I don't want it too tight on the chain. Now tightening down the locking nut so adjustment don't change. Time for some lube. This is what was required. All right, this lube is so thick. I tried this funnel, did not work. I didn't think it was going to, so I switched over to my second choice here. All right, it's time to go test it. Okay, looks like it's working now. So, if you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, please leave them below. And as always, thank you for watching.